something that that the homeowner can afford, that may put the lender's equity, the lender's stake, a little further out in the future. But in Massachusetts, the real estate market has been very resilient. It will come back. Markets are cyclical. This one will turn as well. So just trying to get people to hang on. And that is a bigger chore than it sounds because of the shame associated with foreclosure. I met a woman who was just about on the curb. She'd been getting notices for months and putting them in the freezer. She put them in the freezer. I'm not kidding. She put them in the freezer while she reached for the ice cream because the ice cream gave her comfort and the foreclosure notice did not. I understand that. And people, so trying to make a way for people to get past the shame and get to the point of dealing practically. Not that every situation can be worked out, but I think starting with restructuring, because most lenders, and I was in the banking business, Ralph can say more about it, they're not interested in being in the property owning business. They're in the lending business. So they're not looking to foreclose. Where there is, now I can talk about why that's, because of the selling on to the second and third tertiary markets and secondary and tertiary markets and so on, it's harder to get that connection because you're dealing with a servicer rather than the actual owner of the debt. But if you keep piercing, you can get there. The second point, though, is that in the cases where holding on to that property and maintaining that residence or apartment is just not financially practical, these funds through the new federal bill and some initiatives of our own are important for community groups and so on to be able to acquire and redeploy these properties. And we've got a big issue around affordable housing in Massachusetts, and frankly, we're going to try to look at this crisis as an opportunity to broaden that stock. Okay.
Hi, Governor.
Hi.
My name is Garland, and first of all, thank you for your visit to our city.
Thank you, Garland.
You spoke about fear and hope, and one of the things that I've noticed in urban cities around America is there is fear on one side and hopelessness on another one. You spoke about the big dig in Boston. We have a lot of construction that's going on in the area, and a local think tank, nonpartisan, came out with, in the paper the other day, a job prescription for unemployed black males who have completely moved out of the market. Did the big dig in Boston help at all to employ black males? And if so, is there a model that we can look at here in this city?
Great question. The answer is not enough. And there is a model. I'm not sure we were the model, but there is a model. There was, the big dig was happening at a time it included a time of unprecedented employment in Massachusetts. It was hard to hire people. Everybody was working. We had more than enough jobs. If you wanted to work, you could work. Now, it's hard to imagine, isn't it? But there was that time. That's not now, but although I will say that our unemployment rate has been going down while the nation's has been going up. We've been adding jobs while the nation has been shedding jobs. But still, we have two kinds of gaps that are relevant to your question, Garland. One is we've got 125,000 people looking for work right now and 95,000 vacancies, which says we aren't connecting up the people who need the work with the skills they need to do the jobs. So there are some chronic vacancies. Nursing, for example, is a serious issue. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to get nursing schools to go into communities where there is chronic unemployment or underemployment, black men and black women and others, and attract them into nursing. Because you can, you will get a job coming out of nursing, and in many cases, it's a $100,000 job in Massachusetts these days, Eastern Massachusetts in particular. The other gap is that we do have a cadre, there's no doubt about it, of black men and I would also say in our case, Latino men who have stopped looking, who've just given up, and who are deeply discouraged. When I talk about that skills gap, they are in large measure the target for a whole host of skills training that we are trying to support. We can't do it all, but that we're trying to support with state money. In particular, we have, the legislative session closed last night at 1 o'clock, which is why I'm a little slow today. We finished the legislation with, legislative session with about $13 billion in bonding authority that we had asked for to start reinvesting in our infrastructure, roads and bridges and public colleges and universities, broadband, housing, public and affordable housing. There's a lot of construction work there. And part of the deal is apprenticeship programs for kids, young people, young men, young or not, who are chronically unemployed, so to bring them back into the workforce. I'll say one last thing, and I know my answers are going too long. One last thing. I think that for a population of under or unemployed folks that we're talking about, we got to start connecting dots. It is a job, yes, but there's a whole set of life skills that also have to, I mean, we've got a strategy, for example, to end homelessness in the next 10 years. That's not just about giving somebody a house. There's a whole wraparound set of services and supports that go with that person. And in many respects, and this is the last thing I'll say about this, it comes from a sense that, when I grew up on the south side of Chicago, every child was under the jurisdiction of every single adult on the block, right? You messed up down the street in front of Ms. Jones's, she would, as we used to say, go upside your head, as if you were hers, right? And then call home, so you got it 2 times. There was in other words, that community was, that whole community was about your life skills, and about teaching you how to be, in my case, how to be a man. Now, there are pressures on communities that make it harder to do that today. Not impossible, not impossible. And I think there are still issues around personal responsibility, adults acting like adults. That is also a part of active citizenship, acting like that neighbor's child is yours too. That's also, those issues are also at large and have to be addressed. But there are other pressures on communities that other institutions, including government, have to step in and help with. And that's why I would make the point about life skills for the population that you've asked about. Okay.
Governor, my name is Pete. I believe yesterday you signed into law a program, universal preschool program, if I'm not mistaken. And
That's
I'd
right.
like to, if you could tell us a little bit more about that, about what you hope it would do for Massachusetts and how it might serve as a model.
Yeah, two or three facts that I've learned in the last little while. The brain of a child develops 90% in the first 3 or 4 years of life. We start spending money on them when they're 5. Think about that. High quality early education for a poor kid means that kid is, based on a number of credible studies, 40% more likely to graduate from high school, 3 times more likely to graduate, 40% more likely not to need special ed services, the most expensive form of education, by the way, 3 times more likely to graduate from high school, twice as likely to graduate from college. To me, preschool, early ed is universally available. Not just babysitting, but the sort of thing that in the town of Milton where I live, we do for our kids. So people have money. We provide it for our kids. The question is, how do we make it available for others? That is about developing intellectual skills, social skills, basic academic and scholastic skills. Not turning them into little, robots, but getting them a good start.